Welcome to episode 7 of the Science of Advertising Show, the show where we review the latest ads and the science behind why they influence and persuade human behavior. On today's panel, we've got Dr. Jared Cooney-Horvath, the preeminent expert in the field of educational neuroscience, with a focus on learning, memory, and attention, and your host, Jonathan Rowley. Welcome to the show, Dr. J.
Thank you for having me on episode 7. I'm excited for this one. We had some good ads this time. Good choices.
We do. A very big lineup. And this lineup, we have the likes of Australian chocolate brand Daryl Lee, who is really taking it to the 800-pound gorilla of the chocolate category in Cadbury. We've also got Compare the Pair, looking at the heavyweight insurance brands of Budget Direct and Amy going toe-to-toe. Then we discuss the classic creative from Amy with the lovable Rhonda and Katut, like a sunrise. But let's get started.
Breakfoot, Rhonda. That's like my favorite line. My wife and I say it all the time.
Do you really? There you go.
We do. Whenever we're just piddling around, we say, beautiful breakfoot.
Let's jump straight into it. The latest from Daryl Lee. Here we go. All right, Daryl Lee, there we have it. Dr. J, I might cut to you for this one just to get your thoughts.
This is a wonderful example of how prior knowledge is required to understand new learning. So let's say, for sake of conversation, you didn't know that this was a chocolate company. And I'm only saying for sake of conversation because I sure as hell didn't know until I had to look this stuff up. So this is a great example of you come into an ad, you immediately understand what it's doing. But didn't we look at the Cadbury gorilla a couple weeks ago? Yeah,
we did. Yeah.
So we have a classic ad from a classic chocolate company that these guys are going to take the piss out of and play with. Problem is, I didn't know they were a chocolate company until after the fact. So I guess on one hand, this is really good in that it forced me to do some thinking. It forced me as a human being to go to say, hey, I recognize something. I don't quite have all the pieces. Let me go piece it together myself. And a good rule of thumb, anytime a human being has to work, the memory, the learning, the understanding gets deeper. The fact that I actually had to go look up their website and figure out what it was they sold, congratulations. That means I'm probably never going to forget. But it's a good thing to remember that there's going to be a lot of people out there who won't know that they're a chocolate company. We'll see this ad and we'll immediately just think, Cadbury, they're taking the piss. Forget you. That was a great ad. You're screwing with my Cadbury ad. I'm out of here. So I don't know that how many people are going to be willing to go online and look up that it's a chocolate company. Beyond that, so prior knowledge out. Let's assume that everyone in the world knew it was a chocolate company. Great ad. I thought they did a wonderful job with this. They took a piss, but in a way that made you feel better, in a way that aligned with a lot of the growing morality concerning environmentalism, concerning who we want to be. And in which case, I think, cool, once I knew everything that was going on, I see why they did it. I see why they chose it. It looked good. I can't really complain. What are you thinking?
A very clever ad on many fronts. And like this one actually blew up. It's just Australia, but the creative and advertising boffins were really divided on this. You had the one side going, this is an amazing ad, love this ad, everything about it. And the others just going, no, this is a direct ripoff of Cadbury. Get inventive. You're just enforcing Cadbury's message. So there was really two sides to it, but it really got the conversation going. And, you know, as creative boffins, that's sometimes their objective. But yeah, very, very interesting when you start digging into it. But yeah, I agree. You would need to have laid that groundwork down. Like you have got to have had exposure to Cadbury to understand the piss take that this was.
Yeah.
You've also got to understand why palm oil is so bad as well. You require that prior learning. And, you know, there will be many that do. There'll be many that may not be, as whereas why palm oil is so bad, you know? So for me, it nearly takes us back to when we were talking about the Moldy Burger, laying the groundwork. So
Yeah.
if you set it up like you were discussing with Moldy Burger, where you've got to go, palm oil is in everything from chocolate to makeup, shampoo to ice cream. You can't often see it in the ingredients list because it's hidden as vegetable oil on many labels. You know, demand is increased by 400% since 1995. You position this as like the Antichrist or the worst thing that's going on, then you've got more leverage. So I felt that potentially you could have really plowed the soil to have a very fertile runway for the mass market. Yeah. But on the flip side, if you're very aware of palm oil, you know the problems with palm oil, that talks directly to you. So you've owned a segment of the market, and that segment may be consuming Cadbury, and they'll be second guessing going, oh, maybe I don't want to be supporting a brand that goes against my beliefs. Yeah. So for me, as a mass message, some question marks around it. You know, it's still very powerful, great ad, great execution. But
and the fact that people are talking about it, the fact that it got enough people saying, hey, was it good? Was it not? What do we just say? The more the viewer does work, the deeper the message is going to get. So even the very act of just discussing it, that's not a bad move right there.
Totally. In terms of execution, it really felt like you were nearly watching a remake of the Cadbury creative. You know, there was sort of this intrigue, and I thought the execution of the orangutan was sensational. Like they really delivered in terms of production, like home run.
And if you think about it, so I think they tried to cover a base, and I think you're spot on. I hadn't actually put two and two together so there's an environmental issue with this product. We're not going to use that product. Cool. I was just too busy thinking about the Cadbury angles that I hadn't even really put two and two together.
Yeah, right.
But what I think they were able to do is to build a bridge. Let's say they're going for the healthy market. You've already picked your audience. There's not everyone in the world is health conscious. Not everyone's going to go get the sugar-free chocolate. Why? Because it tastes nasty most of the time. So there's going to be a good 60% of the people who don't care, in which case I think they're pretty good by saying, you know what, I don't care about you. We're going to go for this group here. With that said, I don't know jack about palm oil, but it was clear that what they were going for was a more holistic, more environmental, healthier version of that ad. So you've got a big, heavy gorilla in a human environment versus a really light, healthy looking orangutan in the jungle where it's green and it looks like he's in his natural environment and he's just having a good old time. So I think even without the deep knowledge, I was able to piece the idea that they're saying we're somehow environmentally conscious. And they got that through just by the setting, just by the scenery. Problem is, I don't know why. I did, like you just said, if I don't know palm oil and I don't know why.
See, this is where I go. Like anyone that is aware of it, and I'm not sure how big this segment is, but it's probably 5 to 15% that are very, very hyper aware of how bad palm oil is for the environment. And the reason it's so bad is that, you know, Malaysia, Indonesia are two of the largest countries that export palm oil. Palm oil is a great vegetable oil because you can produce it en masse. But the challenge is both of those countries are literally setting forests on fire to clear the way, killing orangutans, tigers, you name it, endangered species all throughout in the quest of clearing land for more palm oil.
So you're right. You got to set that up. What a missed opportunity to paint the bad guy. Very rarely is it kosher to have a very clear bad guy in an ad without coming across like a douche. Like you can't just say, by the way, this product sucks. But in this case, you're not talking about Cadbury itself. You're talking about a secondary thing. So there's no libel here. You're not making fun of. It's a very easy antagonist that you can now bring your protagonist in with. And you're right. I'm sad that they missed that.
And that's what I mean. I think they got a little bit swept away with the piss take of Cadbury, rather than really hammering home the message. And there's two ways you could have done that. One would have been to plow the soil and sow your seed of how bad palm oil is. That is your campaign. That's your PR. Give that some air. Then you go in with your hero that saves the day, and we're 100% palm oil free. Do you know? Or in that creative, you've got the orangutan, which is associated with palm oil because orangutan population in these particular countries have dropped by over half. So they are literally the poster child for palm oil or the destruction of palm oil forests. So then on the back end of the ad, you've got your glossy 30-second. You could then have a longer version that then digs into why palm oil, we need to stop supporting palm oil as an industry and why we've chosen it. They've tried to do it through social, but I just think they've missed a bigger opportunity. But anyone that gets it, they've got them and they understand it. But to your point, you didn't really know.
And I'll say at the end of the day, it's a good looking ad. It got me thinking. It got me looking things up. It's cool, but yes, give me more. If you're gonna be socially conscious, recognize that it's a niche market. You have to teach the world. It's scary to think that there has to be an element of education in anything that is fringe, in anything that's trying to change the mold. But that's how you change the mold, is you can't change it by just continuing to play in the rules and say, "Ooh, that sucks." You have to teach people why it sucks, give them the foundation, and then they'll follow you out. So anyone, I would say even beyond this, anyone trying to play the environmental card is going to have to face that. You have to set up the bad guy, unless it's something like global warming or coal that everyone knows. If there's a real bad guy and most of the people won't know it, you got to make it clear to me.
Here's one for you. I'll go sales now. Like if I'm looking at sales, if there's a pain point or something that elicits emotion that makes someone feel uncomfortable, and I'm looking to sell a particular that's a better solution, I like to push that, and really get in there and push the pain point just before the solution comes. So pain, pleasure, problem, solution. And I get if everyone is aware that there is a problem, but I still like to just push it or poke it, or at least just fire it up, just so that then you've got the pain, the pleasure on the flip side.
If you take a look neurologically, so for those of you, I think people are aware of the pain pleasure dichotomy, but what's happening in the brain is that pain point is what your brain registers as an error. It's a disconnect between reality and your version of reality in your head. And that's the pain is your brain essentially saying, change, change, change. You'll literally never learn better, faster, or easier than right after you feel that pain, because biologically the system, that's that feeling. The system is saying we have to update our story, our understanding immediately. So that's why if you then pulled in that pleasure, congratulations, everything is primed to update, take that new message in, and ideally play with it. So I think you're absolutely, so that very recognizable pain pleasure in this case would have been, now we know the neurological mechanism, would have been a very easy play. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not in the creative field, but I don't imagine it would have been that difficult. Like you could go one way, which are those really heavy ads like on TV that with the sad music and the burning forest, and you see like a dead puppy with its eyes all big looking at you like, help me. And it's like, that kind of works. But in this instance, you want to keep a little bit of levity. So you just have to find a way to keep that levity while bringing in this message. Like you can show the original gorilla, or have like a series of auditions of different animals trying to play the drums. And we say, I'm sorry, we can't hire you because palm oil is killing you. Find a way to weave that message into the narrative that you're already building so that you can keep the levity, keep the fun, and get the learning embedded within it. I mean, I'm not creative. That's horrible. You don't want to talk about dead animals, but you see what I'm getting at. Like there's a way to do it.
I think there's several ways. Look, like to sum up, I think they've done a brilliant job. It's a great ad, great execution, and I hope it really works for them. It's an amazing cause and an amazing Australian brand. So credit to them. I hope it has the wind at their back and it does brilliant things for them. But I think there was a slight missed opportunity to really lay the groundwork for this just to go that little bit harder. But anyway, let's change gears now and we'll talk insurance. So we've got a couple of latest of the pieces of work from both AAMI and Budget Direct. There's 2 from Budget Direct, so there's actually 3 here in Compare the Pair.
Compare the pair. There's our theme song, by the way. Did you lay that down?
In life, there are those that say they'll do and those that actually do. When it comes to insurance, Keith, it's worth a closer look. Some don't offer unlimited not-at-fault car hire. But AAMI does. Just give us the other driver's details. Need help with a claim?
Hello, Keith.
Some don't have one dedicated home claims manager. But AAMI does. Free roadside assist for a year? Sorry, some don't. But AAMI does with the new AAMI Comprehensive Car Insurance Policy. Some cover your house and pool, but not if the motor burns out. Don't worry, AAMI does. Some don't even have an app to lodge a claim without having to chat. But I think you know who does. So, what's it going to be, Keith? Go with the doers. Amy does. Sweet dreams, Keith.
Lucky you're with Amy.
Sarge, think I got something.
Are you Gary?
Yeah, that's me.
You're paying way too much for your car insurance. What's the story?
I don't know, really. My parents are with them?
Your parents? Do they still do your washing for you as well?
Just the whites.
Time to take control, Gary. Probe a little deeper. If you switch to Budget Direct, you can save hundreds. Can't believe I said probe.
Money Magazine's 2020 Best of the Best winner, Budget Direct, insurance solved. From the files of Budget Direct.
Is that your dog?
It's the neighbor's dog. Will my insurance cover this?
Not looking good, I'm afraid.
Budget Direct would have provided you with temporary accommodation for up to a year while they repaired it.
Good dog.
Get temporary accommodation for up to a year. With Budget Direct, you've got insurance solved.
There we have it. There's the latest from Budget Direct and Amy. Look, I'll kick this off. Let's look at Budget Direct to start with. Let's go UFO. UFO, I don't know how many times I've seen this. I would go probably at least a dozen. I always associated this ad with X-Files. I'm not sure why. There was always a disconnect for me between why is there a UFO, a man floating above a car, and what has this got to do with car insurance? And it never really dawned on me until I watched it several times for this particular episode. And it's like, oh, the car roof has actually been peeled back by the UFO. So there is actual car damage there. Is that
what? I did not see that. That is what I've been missing the whole time.
See, that was the bit that I literally had to watch and try and go, what is the connect between car insurance and a UFO? I do not get it. And then it just dawned on me. That's what it is. But it's such a loose bow that it has taken me probably 20 times in total to try and get it. And that's me actively trying to get it. As a whole, it really misses the heart of the communication. Then you go to the dog, the lightsaber dog, which I loved for several different reasons. Like, I loved it. It was so different. You haven't seen anything like it. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're immediately pulled in. If you love dogs, it's a cute dog. It's already there. You know, you've kind of got these affable characters that you kind of, and it takes you on this story where you see the physical damage of the house, both inside and out, a very bizarre type of situation that you can't see that would happen, but it pushes the extremities of what would happen, but you're still covered. And more to that, what was missed in the first one was just a promise. You know, you'll save with us, but there's no proof to back up a claim. Whereas this, if you're with us, yes, you're not only covered, but we'll give you accommodation for up to 12 months. So that's the key message that they delivered in a fun, enjoyable way. So that were the two from Budget Direct. I'll jump to you, Jared, and then we can maybe just loop back in on Amy if you want following that.
So the UFO one is older than the lightsaber one's the new one. Good. Correct. They've learned. So for a while, I think we've talked about this before, how they're going for that X-Files theme. I get it, but I've never seen the link to insurance. And I've constantly said, anytime I see one of their commercials, there's a dragon flying, I'm like, what the hell are you guys selling? Like, I don't get it. And until you told me that the car roof was pulled back, I even watched it a couple times for this. I still didn't see that. So if that's your point, you're totally missing it. But I get what they're doing. Okay, so let's get, because didn't you tell me they used to be Captain Risky used to be their spokesman?
Correct. Yeah.
mascot. I was going to say mascot, but that's not true. But they're going to come in with the new Mulder and Scully. Cool. I get it. Problem. If you're going to have a trusted advisor, make that person likable. If you have an advisor that I don't like, I'm going to throw that straight onto your company and say, you guys must be dicks. And that guy in that first UFO ad, he's just a dick. So here I'm getting sucked into a UFO. This guy comes up and he looks at me in like the daggiest Aussie accent, says, you're an idiot. You are saving money. Psh, we're out of here. Done. You didn't help me. You didn't protect me. So now I think Budget Direct, you're just a bunch of assholes. And to be fair, that guy is still a dick in the second ad with the dog. I think they miscast that guy horribly because he is not likable. He's not charming. He's not affable. He's just mean. But what they did catch on to was, okay, we need an actual message here. We need to show damage to demonstrate that we are in the insurance game. So they kind of kept their two trusted advisors, who I wouldn't even say are trusted at this point. I'd say drop it. And they went back to the Captain Risky kind of fun. Let's show things get damaged and then demonstrate that, okay, we're going to make this work for you. So whoever's been talking to them over the last couple of years, they finally figured out they've been screwing it up a bit. And I think this brings them back in line. I get their message. The story's good. Get rid of that guy and you're hitting a home run.
Yeah. And then you got Amy, the latest from Amy. I'll cut to you. Do you want to have a jump at not Rhonda and Katut, but Amy?
This was the this one does my head in. So I get it. Intellectually, I understand what they're doing. And I think intellectually, I like what they're doing. Moving into Amy Does as kind of a new tagline. It's always going to be hard to move into something new. I get it. And I kind of like it. They're doing a straight comparison. Over here, pain, here's your pleasure. Not going to get it, gonna get it. Problem is, this commercial, and I've been thinking this since the first time I saw it. So this has been out for a couple of weeks and I saw it on TV and I thought the same thing. You get so confused trying to figure out the situation that you stop listening to the narration right early in the piece, to the point where it takes about 30 seconds till you even understand what the hell is going on. And what they did is they made a mistake in that. So human beings, we cannot read words while listening to somebody speak at the same time, but we can look at images while listening to somebody speak. That's why most commercials work. That's true up to a point. Once an image becomes confusing, uncertain, unclear, or requires some sort of decoding, now I literally cannot listen to words because all the cognitive energy required to discern, to detect what's happening is going into that decoding. And then until I solve it, the words come, nothing's getting in word-wise. So this starts with that scene on the bus. And that scene on the bus is so strange and so oddly shot that I always find myself just trying to decode what is going on with this bus, that I miss the point that they're trying to make, is that the reason he's on this bus is because he doesn't have a car because he got in a crash. I'm still not getting it. I'm still trying to figure out, why is the guy next to him strong? Why is there a woman giving him eggs? Like, I get what you're trying to do. Buses are weirdos. But you've done it and filmed it in such a way and then tried to send your message on top of it that you're losing most of your people, because we're just trying to figure out the image at this point. So by the end of the ad, I get it. It catches up with itself. Like, don't have roadside assistance, you suck. Well, here you go. But God, just the way they did, the choices they made, having them sit in a cooler instead of a pool, confusing. I'm spending so much time just trying to sort out your joke that I'm missing your point. And that's not a good thing in an ad. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because they've got several things in there that are very good.
Yeah.
They've got 5 different stories within, again, this is the difference with Market is very much going short form, which is 15-second creatives, 30-second creatives. If you're looking at the creatives that allow a bit more space to tell a story, 45 a minute, you will get that bandwidth. So they've told 5 stories here. You know, everything from car hire, claim deducted, roadside assist, house and pool. They've basically gone, here's our whole suite of products. We're This is your problem. This is your solution. Amy does. This is your problem. This is solution. Amy does. So for me, the key takeaway wasn't so much that each of these scenarios, it was more about Amy does, Amy does, Amy does, Amy does. They say this 6 times throughout. So in 60 seconds, they've just gone through this. So you just go, I'm not going to remember the scenario. It just means that it doesn't matter if it's car, house, whatever it is, Amy does. Amy's got it. And to the point where we had before with the proof points, in each of these, they had a proof point in terms of how they deliver. It's not just a promise, an empty claim that you can't back up. They've backed up all of them. I agree the footage on some of them is too complex and it's just a bit too clever. Like, I think if they actually stripped it down rather than trying to be either a little bit humorous or too clever, they just really stripped it back down a little bit, like 10, 20% to try and get around these little nuances in there. We're like, why is there an Esky that I don't get what? Yeah.
And how is he now in the car when he was in the bus? I get it by the end, but at the moment, it's just so, it's too, you could have done that in a much easier way.
Yeah, but they got across Amy does. And you can kind of see this nearly feels like their new strategy or their new direction. It's how do we get away from Amy does, but they're probably still a little bit attached to the change where they had, you know, the previous Amy ads were very much, here's a big crash and all the rest of it. And you've got a beautiful Amy lady that comes along and saves the day, you know, whereas then they went to Ship Creek, to, you know, that was playing very funny and they got a lot of leverage in it. But I think now they're trying to find this middle ground, and the middle ground, they probably need to lose a little, trying to be a bit too cute with it and just hit that message. Because I think it's a good one. I think you stay it enough, it gets sticky. Amy does. They're just trying to build some more long-term brand assets.
And I think I think, again, on paper, I love the idea. It's the execution. And I think you nailed it. Before you even get into weapons of influence, before you even get into acoustic coding or repetition or any of this stuff, you've got 2 principles you need to hit. And one of them is simplicity. You've got to be simple. Go back and watch that ad and look at how many extraneous words they add in that narration, to the point where it's like, don't worry about the details. I'll ask you that later. So like when they're talking about the pool, they don't just say, oh, your pool shot, we'll cover you. They say, your pool is shot, but it's really because 2 motors went bad. Well, they'll cover you with most motors, but not the brown ones, but we'll cover you with the brown ones. Shut the heck up. Get to the point. They did it. There's another one. I think it's the 3rd one in. They said, we'll cover you under circumstance ABC. I'm like, this is not the point to give me the specifics, the details now. Your point at this moment is to keep it simple. Give me your message. They don't do this. We do.
So that's the difference between if you had one of these stories in a 30 or 45, you could have gone there. You know, just with the lightsaber, you've got all the little details of him running through the house, the chairs, you know, the power pole. Like, you can do that because it's one story. You've got 5 stories here. So you do need that really simple message, because otherwise you've been drawn into one of the stories going, I don't get that one. And you lose the narrative of the global view, which is Amy does, Amy does, Amy does, Amy does, which is the hero of this story. Amy does.
You know what just occurred to me? An easier way to do this, because now they could have actually had 2 points. They could have had their repetition through an acoustic coding, and they could have had either a trusted advisor or a hero, in that instead of having one guy go through both scenarios, have 2 guys go through different scenarios. The dude stuck in the bus is miserable, looks out the window, and the hero comes driving by with Amy in the car, giving him a thumbs up. The miserable guy is sitting in the cooler. He looks over his fence and his friend is sitting in the pool. It's just a far easier way than trying to find, like, even the pool one, right? He's sitting there with his daughter. Camera has to pan up and then come back down. It's just too smart. And it leaves you, by the time you're done thinking about the last episode, you've already missed the next one. And you're right, you lose the narrative.
Yeah. Look, overall, I think it's a really good spot. But again, the nuances and just the detail and the execution, but really like where they're heading with Amy Does. I think there's a lot of merit to it. How long they'll carry it on, I'm not sure, but I'm keen to see what the evolution, especially going from a Ship Creek scenario to now this Amy Does.
So who do you think did it better? Compare the pair. So take UFO off the counter. Let's just take new dog versus new Amy. Which one's doing it better?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Budget Direct.
Me too. I think they did it so much better.
I think this latest execution of Budget Direct was very, very, very good. They hit the key message, which is, doesn't matter what happens to your home, we've got you, and you can go into a replacement home for 12 months.
And we're nice. We're not going to make fun of you for getting in a wreck. We're going to help you after you've gotten into a wreck.
The hero, we will help you. Look, Amy does. I still think it's not a bad creative by any stretch of the imagination. It's more about who's done it better. But yeah, on this particular Compare the Pair, Budget Direct gets the chocolates. No pun intended. Speaking of Amy.
Speaking of Amy, what?
Classic creative.
What? A classic? Let's see it.
Classic. Let's cut to it. Ketut and Rhonda.
It's time for a blast from the past.
I've always dreamt of doing something more exotic, and with 15% off my insurance, Amy Safe Driver Rewards helped me get there.
I make special drink for you today, Rhonda.
Thank you.
You look so hot today, like a sunrise.
You're naughty. Thank you, Ketut.
Remember, eyes on the road, Rhonda.
Amy's Safe Driver Rewards offer up to 15% discount for drivers who don't claim. Where will the savings take you?
Ketut and Rhonda. You look so hot today, like a sunrise. That's what I remember. You've got a completely different take on it.
But that was, remember, they kept it going. They had like a whole soap opera with them where she went back home and he was going to come visit her at the dance. They turned this into a thing. I was hooked. This was better than Desperate Housewives.
Yeah, I kind of lost me. I only like this one out of all of them. This is the only one that really had me because they had her in the office and they all started clapping with Rhonda and all the rest of it. I thought they took it a little bit too far, but you had to because this one was such a hit. But just to the point, and we kind of missed it, or I missed it on the last one about telling a story. So this is storytelling. Telling a story that is relatable to your product. Yeah. It's realistic. So this whole story is 15% off insurance, which is why Rhonda's over there with Ketut in the first place, because she saved money. You go to the home insurance. This is what's happened in my home. Now you're saving it. The UFO, I don't get that story. That's unbelievable. It makes no sense to me. I don't connect the dot between your brand and the industry you sit in and how you're going to help me. So this one just nailed it in terms of 15% off your insurance, saves me money if I'm just like Rhonda, and I can go overseas and enjoy a wonderful holiday and fall in love.
And it shows you how important casting is. I promise you this ad doesn't get anywhere near as much traction if that guy's accent wasn't that smooth and if he wasn't just such a nice dude. But you start rooting for him. Rhonda's a nerd. She's cute. She's funny. But he's the one that you gravitate towards. And you're like, that's a nice dude. And I don't know what it was. I don't know why. I mean, there's so many ads with people with accents. You got the two Russian meerkat people. You got random dudes dancing and other. It was like it wasn't even trying. And they just found the perfect dude that everyone wanted to root for. And it was like, cool, I'm in. I'm yours. Now, the scary thing or the trip is, did they take it too far? And that's where I think what started to happen was, so this became a soap opera. So I don't know, is the woman with orange hair, is she kind of a famous actress in Australia? Like, did people know her?
She was a nobody. This was her, yeah.
Because I was thinking, my entire thought was maybe she was a soap actress and they were making a soap. Because remember, it went ad after ad after ad, and it was their love story coming together. The problem with it was by the end, it wasn't about Amy anymore. No one cared. I couldn't have told you all I knew is Beautiful Breakfoot. I didn't know it was Amy, but I'm rooting for these two. So you have a danger that when you find somebody or some pair that people really want to root for, of people digging into that story and then leaving your brand off of that story. So you have to make sure your brand is front and center as you're doing these things.
And great example, because you go, great casting, they become a character that you love and you feel close to and, memorable in many different respects. And you want to reinforce that. So you want to leverage your memorable character. But when you lose your narrative and it gets away from your brand, the character becomes the hero, not your brand. You know, and you see that with Compare the Market as well. You know, the heroes become the characters, and they kind of forget in some situations what they actually are and what they need to stand for, because it's all about, they're so in love with their characters that they've created. Connect it with helping people. That is what a brand is. It's what a business does. Businesses help people in some respect.
You know what, in hindsight, would have been a very easy fix? Don't call her Rhonda, call her Amy. Now at least you have your name of your company. Granted, it's going to be spelled differently, but no one's going to be looking at the spelling. At least you'll have your name coming up 5-6 times. And 10 years later, when somebody says beautiful breakfoot Rhonda, we say beautiful breakfoot Amy. And at least you get me saying your name. Now that works for Amy. You couldn't have done that with Budget Direct. Oh, beautiful breakfoot Budget Direct. Like, but in this instance, it would have worked, and it could have made the brand a little more front and center. But that's me nitpicking the extension of this. In terms of just this one pure ad, there's a reason it's classic. I'm telling you, man, if you find somebody that people like, congratulations, you've just hit a home run, because it's real hard to do.
But just on that, the setup of this ad, and I'm not sure if you noticed, because many people don't, the setup of the ad is all about Rhonda talking about how she saved money.
Yeah.
You know, she got 15%, and then it goes into the story, the little love connection that they've got right there. The sparks were just flying, and away they go. And then it reinforces at the end again. So you've got their core value proposition is at the heart of this story.
Yeah.
That is the
so when
hero.
is it, where is that front in tail? I didn't see that. Is that?
Have a look at it again, and it's like camera to Rhonda, and Rhonda's talking about how she saved 15% off car insurance. Then Katuk comes around with, so it seeds it there, doesn't hit home, but it frames a story straight up. I saved 15% off my car insurance. Then it tells the story, and it loops back at the end.
Okay. Oh, see, I'm so focused on Katut. So what if you, and I'm just thinking, and now this is me being creative, which we've determined I'm not. What if you set that very beginning and that very end in a different location to make it a very clear bookend, where she's, instead of talking on the phone at the beach, she's in the office with her tan, and all of her friends are like, ooh, what happened? She goes, well, let me tell you. And then they go to the ad, and then they come back, and then you can, if you have your soap opera, it keeps coming back to her telling the story to her friends, and then goes into the next part of the soap opera.
Yeah, but you've got the relatable things in this story where she takes off her glasses, and you see like the tan, like everyone can relate to that. You relate to the character you've gone into before, oxytocin, you build a bond with those particular, which then you can leverage for your brand. Progressive Direct did this brilliantly with Kitty in the US. They leveraged it somewhat over here as well. With the character, again, they never lost the core proposition, which is saving money, but then they had the proof point of why, because it's all online, you know? So you got to promise, you've got to prove it. Whereas in the others, you know, you look at the UFO, all they did was just proof point. No promise, didn't back it up. It's an empty saying.
So what do they say? You could save money. I can't believe you're not saving more. See you later. It's like, what was the point? Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I like it. I'm going to keep an eye out for the proof promise this week.
Promise
and I'm
proof
come out.
Has to be
promise
in that
proof. I'm going to keep an eye out for it.
It is empty. It does not connect. You do not get the response. But that's a wrap. That's it. Episode 7. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time, Jonathan Rowley, Dr. Jared, over and out.
Toodles.